grants and help is available and how to navigate that. With that said, I'm going to introduce Nishat and Aadil. Assalamu alaikum, Nishat and Aadil.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Naeem. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you very much for JSIMIANA and Apna New York and APAC and PACE for organizing this educational talk for the community. It is obviously a very challenging time for everyone, and for you to take out your time from this busy schedule to educate the community is something which is very commendable, so thank you for that. We would also like to thank all the physicians who are on the front line of this health crisis. Now, we being a financial services firm, Wall Street Alliance Group, specializing in financial planning for physician families, when this crisis happened, we decided that we are going to dedicate some time to educate physicians about the various financial support programs that are available to them. So it is an honor to be here, and we're very happy to address any questions that you or the audience might have.
Wonderful. So let's get to the point. And my first question really is to talk about what is PPP loan? How do you describe the PPP loan?
That's a very good question, Rizwan. The PPP loan is the Paycheck Protection Loan. It's the Paycheck Protection Program. This is one of the most in-demand and time-sensitive program that is out there. And this is basically for small business owners. So if you're a small business with less than 500 employees, this program is for you. If you're a physician practice, this is for you. If you're a self-employed physician, this is for you. Now, the whole idea, if we look at the background of this program, what the government basically wants to do is that it wants to put money in the pockets of the small business so that they can survive the next 2 to 3 months, so that when the economy comes back, they can hit the road running. Now, the way this program works is that they would basically look at your average monthly payroll, multiply that by 2.5 times, and that is basically going to be your loan amount. So let's take a simple example. If your average monthly payroll is $20,000, 2.5 times that, $50,000 is basically your loan amount. Now, the interesting thing, Rizwan, about this loan is that it is actually a forgivable loan. So what that basically means is that the manner in which the government wants you to spend this money, they want you to spend at least 75% of the funds that you receive on payroll, and the other 25% you can spend on rent, utilities, and mortgage. And whatever money, as soon as you receive these funds, an 8-week clock starts. And whatever money that you use in this manner that I have outlined during those 8 weeks, that gets forgiven. And the remaining money that does not get forgiven, you have up to 2 years to pay it back, and the interest rate is only 1%. So as you can see, this is a very attractive loan and a very high demand program. And the way that they are dispersing these funds is through banks. So we would encourage that if you have a business banking relationship and you feel that you're eligible for this loan, you should call them and try to submit your application as soon as possible if you haven't done so already. Now, the amount that is available for this program is quite limited right now. Only $349 billion have been allocated, and it is being given out on a first come, first serve basis. So we would encourage that if you're eligible, submit your application for this as soon as possible.
Wonderful, wonderful explanation, Aadil. So you said 2 important things, which I want to further elaborate and ask Nishat to maybe explain it. You said it's forgivable, right? So if you're calling it a loan and then loan is forgivable, that's wonderful, but that's a good news. And you also mentioned that you have to apply early because the funds are limited and it's first come, first get type of basis. So tell us how to apply, where to apply. And I went to SBR website today, and it says it's closed for now because it is no more. The funds are whatever the funds are allocated, they are either dried out or website is too loaded. They said come back again. So maybe Nishat can explain how to apply, where to apply, and what is meant by forgiveness in detail.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I want to just explain one more time that Adil already explained. So the way the application works is not directly to the SBA website. You can go there, they pass information, but the go-to people over here are your bank. If you already have an existing relationship, this is where you go to actually apply for the loan. Now, there are two dates to remember when you apply for the loan. First date is April 3rd, second date, April 10th. April 10th is the date if you are self-employed physician or restaurant business owners. This is for you. You don't have an employee, all 1099. You work part-time or full-time, get a locum. This is for you. April 3rd, this is where you are an employer and you have employee and you pay yourself or the employee a W-2 wage. Now, the way the process works that when you go to a bank, some local bank, they don't have online, they do everything via the paper form. But if you're Bank of America or Chase, everything is online, you have to submit everything online. Now, either way, whichever bank you use, local or big bank, one thing I just want to point out when you apply for the loan, it is not as simple as your average monthly payroll multiplied by 2.5, you derive the number. Because there's a lot of things that are included and excluded when you do the calculation. And we highly encourage you that you actually speak to your CPA or payroll company and work with your financial advisor to give you the exact number. Because as you mentioned, the funds are limited. You don't want to like submit an application and going back and forth. You want to do it properly. So hopefully it gets approved sooner than later. Now, I just want to show a slide with you just to give you an idea what is included and what is excluded when we're talking about the PPP calculation. Now, when you enter into the system, the average monthly payroll, obviously salaries are included, but the salary you can only take up to $100,000. It's either you or the employee you pay. For calculation purpose, the max you can take is $100,000. Then obviously if you pay any employee any sick leave, medical leave, those you have to add it. Group health insurance, like if you have for the corporate health insurance for the employee, those premiums are included. Retirement account contribution is a big portion of any self-employed, or if you have an employee with an employer, this portion is huge. So a lot of people, what they're making a mistake, they are just going to the payroll and just submitting it. Payroll does not include retirement plan. So you have to manually add that in. And if you don't add it, you will take a dent in your loan amount. So make sure you manually add the retirement contribution as well, like a profit sharing, SEP IRA, or defined benefit. And then also that state and local tax towards the employee, that portion you have to add it as well. Now, there are a few things that are excluded if you see the slide. For example, as I mentioned, anyone making more than 100,000, that more than 100,000, that portion needs to be excluded from the calculation. And payroll tax and income tax, that needs to be excluded from the calculation as well. So this is, you can see there's a comprehensive list there. Make sure you go through it with your CPA before you do the calculation. But if I were to like break it down in simple number, let's say your a W-2 wage annually is $100,000 and you are paying an income tax of $25,000. So what you do, you subtract it. Amount will be 100 minus 25, 75,000. And let's say you do some sort of retirement account, SEP IRA maybe, 25,000, you add it. Total amount goes back to 100,000. You divide it by 12, that becomes around $8,000. You multiply it by 2.5, as Adil explained, that amount becomes around $20,000. This is in a nutshell how formula works. Make sure it is not as simple add few things and subtract few things as well as per the calculation goes. Now,
So,
once you actually get, past this stage, then the bank will ask you few documents. Usually that's happening depending on the bank, some are asking right away, some they're asking in the second stage. So they will ask you for the 941, they're going to ask for the W2, W3, P&L, or maybe the corporate tax return for last year as well. So once you submit all of this, hopefully within a week or two, they will make you a decision, the loan amount you have received. Now, this loan amount, the 2.5 times Adil and I we mentioned, it will go down just in case from February 15th through June 30th, you lay off employee or you reduce hours substantially. There's a formula for it. So one option could be if you've already laid off employee and once you get the loan, there's something called curate problem. You can curate the situation by hiring the employee back. So there's a solution available out there. So, but just keep in mind, you cannot lay off employee. The loan amount will fluctuate if you do that. Now, once you get this, amount of the loan, the clock starts ticking. 8 weeks, you have 8 weeks. As Adil mentioned, 75% you can use it for payroll, and 25% could be used for non-payroll, for example, rent, utilities, and mortgage interest. Now, once you have used this money, it's not like it is forgiven. Just keep in mind what you need to do. The lender give you the loan. You go back to the same lender, the bank, and you tell them the proof how you have used the money. And once they are satisfied, they have 60 days to respond to you that if the loan is forgiveness or not. So this is the way, in a nutshell, how a PPP program works for employer with employee. Now, the other part, if there's no employee, the only difference between this April 3rd and April 10th is you just use the amount net business income for the calculation purpose instead of W2. That's the only difference. So the go-to person or go-to people will be your bank. You go through it. As Adil explained, the amount are limited. First come, first serve. So apply as soon as possible. Some banks are giving pushback. They're not taking application. And Adil, you can explain a little further, what are the course of action in this situation?
Yeah.
So, before we go to other, I have a follow-up question. So when you say payroll for the month, and so many of us have hourly employees also in the offices, and salaries fluctuate week to week or month to month. So it has to be absolutely correct number for the salary, or it can be approximate for, you calculate for 2 months and approximate is, or for the year and then approximate us.
Yeah, so what happened, to make it simple, the reason why we encourage that you don't do the approximation, if you go to a CPA or a payroll company like ADP, there is a section called COVID-19 calculation. They are doing it for you. All CPAs, everyone is doing it. You have to just download that. So just use that number. It's a approximate number, but it is close enough for you to submit it. But remember, you have to submit the documents as well, the 941 W2. So if something goes missing, the bank will get back to you.
Okay, and one more question. So when you say payroll protection, not firing someone or not letting someone go, is that means that if, for example, if I have 8 employees to start with, and I had to lay it off last month, and now we want to rehire, some of them may come back and some may not. Are we allowed to hire anyone, or numbers count, or the same employees count?
Yeah, so it's a number.
Number.
It's a number that needs to be maintained because you cannot control who leaves, who comes. As long as you maintain the number, you're okay.
Thank you. Adil, you're trying to say something.
Yeah, what I was saying was that, we touched on this topic that a lot of people are applying for it. They're going to their lenders and they're getting pushback. Like you mentioned that you went and you tried to apply and they were saying no more applications. So obviously, like Nishat had explained, the process opened as early as April 3rd. And, we are a little bit late in the game right now, but there's still a chance. So we would still recommend find a lender to submit your application, because there's a possibility that they might allocate more funds to it. Right now it's 349 billion, but if they do allocate more funds, you want to be in the queue, because these programs do get funded on a first come, first serve basis. There are people that are having pushbacks from their banks, even banks that they have business relationships with. For example, a lot of our clients said they went to Wells Fargo and they weren't able to process their application. If you are in that type of a situation, come to us. We are speaking to lenders on a daily basis. We'll try to point you in the right direction so you can get your application submitted as soon as possible.
Okay, so that's very, very helpful and very informative. But we also, before we go from PPP loan to the other topic, is there anything a physician community need to know which we have not said it so far? So one thing I can tell you today, I was able to go to Bank of America website and applied my own loan for my consultant's company. And that went through pretty well. And there's another company, I think you probably mentioned to me, Lendio, and they were also very helpful. So there are people out there who are still helping you and want to at least put the application in and see what happens. So it will take a few weeks to sort this out, right?
Yes, Rizwan, you're absolutely right. And situation is fluid; it keeps changing. Some companies may be accepting now, but they weren't accepting before. So but because we are constantly working with clients who are in your type of situation, and we are working with people who are applying, we kind of have the new news flow. So we could point you in the right direction as to which lender you should be evaluating.
Right. So the other thing is, this is not only specific for physician, this is for any small business.
Absolutely.
PPP. Right.
Absolutely.
So if you have a restaurant out there or a grocery store, you are most welcome to apply through this also. And of course, as I said, that so far my experience with Aadil and Nishat is they've been very helpful in any question, not only this, but any other question we may have. So now we want to move on, Aadil, to another very important issues with this this new act, which is some loan called EIDL loan. So can you explain what is EIDL loan is and how it works?
Yes, absolutely. And just one quick point before I get on to EIDL, we are on Facebook Live as well, and we are taking audience questions. So all the attendees that are here, if you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the chat. And as we get through this conversation, we'll try to address them as best as we could. Rizwan, I'm glad you asked about the EIDL loan, because PPP is very good, but there's another option that is available for small businesses, which is called the EIDL loan. Now, this is what we call the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And again, if you're a small business, less than 500 employees, this is for you. If you're a physician practice, this is for you. If you're a self-employed physician, this is for you. Now, this loan is basically for if your business has suffered economic loss due to the COVID-19 crisis, you could potentially apply for this loan. Now, the interesting thing about this loan, Rizwan, is that if you compare it to a bank loan, the terms are very favorable. So the interest rate is only 3.75%. The payback period could be as long as 30 years. The loan amount could be as high as $2 million. Now, the SBA will make the final determination as to what your total loan amount is going to be, but that is basically the maximum. And you can use this money for working capital, for things like, for example, account payable, perfectly fine to use it for those reasons. When you submit your application for this loan, you are asked whether you would like a $10,000 grant. And you can apply for that. And part of this loan, potentially, you could get as a grant up to $10,000, which you do not have to pay back. Now, this loan, remember with the PPP loan, you had to submit the application through the bank. With this loan, the process is a lot simpler. You can actually go to the SBA website and submit your application directly to them. So again, a very good option for businesses that are looking for capital, that are in need for capital, and that have suffered, which a lot of business have suffered because of this COVID-19 crisis. This is again a very good option. One thing I would caution though, is that I was just told today by some clients that they went on the SBA website, they tried to submit the application, but they were not accepting new applications. So in these type of things, this happens when they run out of funds, but potentially this could get opened up again if more funds are allocated to it. So keep checking on the SBA website if you're interested in this loan, and if it opens up and you want to apply for it, you should do so as soon as possible, because as I mentioned, these type of loans do get given out on a first come, first serve basis.
So what I understand, this is like a down payment for your loan, right? And they give you immediately this amount, $10,000, and that is actually is a part of the big loan, but they give you a front before they process your application. Is that right?
Yeah, the idea is to give the $10,000 immediately, very quickly, and then the rest of it will come later. But the $10,000 is an emergency relief for businesses that are suffering, and that doesn't have to be paid back. Yes. But again, the SBA will make a determination whether they'll give you the full 10,000 or whether they will give you a portion of it.
Very good. And as a matter of fact, the application process is the same. You can combine the two programs and submit it together.
So the question is whether you can apply for both and whether you can combine the application. I think, Nishat, if you could address this in some detail, because this is again a very valid point which Rizwan has raised.
Yeah, so Dr. Rizwan, so this EIDL loan, as Aadil explained, you go directly with the SBA website. But the PPP loan, basically you go through the bank. That's the way the process works. Now, you can apply for both loans. As of right now, the information we have it, and this information is keep changing. So just make sure that when you talk to the banker, you speak with them that you can apply for both loans. The only change to it, when you apply for the EIDL loan and PPP loan, it needs to be for two different purposes, cannot be for the same reason. For example, you decided to use PPP loan for payroll and EIDL loan for working capital, that's completely fine. So you can apply it directly, these two loans, one with the bank, one with the SBA, the same time. As of right now, the information we have it. So just few things to remember, the $10,000 forgiveness that happens, it's not like you will get 10,000 right away. It depending on the SBA, depending on the revenue, and it's between the SBA and you. But whatever amount you receive, the forgiveness portion will be offset from PPP. Just a portion, just to remember it. So it might be confusing, but just to remember. So now the important thing is, what loan should you apply for? That is like maybe an important question. Some people are asking. So SBA, the purpose mainly is for working capital. If you need the money for account payable or working capital, and it's a long-term loan, 3.75%, as Aadil explained, is very good loan compared to any other loan you receive. So if that's your intention, SBA EIDL loan is fine. But if your intention is forgiveness of the portion of the loan, then most likely PPP is a better loan. Or if your payroll is too small, for example, so the PPP will be very low as well. So might as well just apply for maybe SBA. It's a simple process as you experience yourself. Maybe it is better to do this way. So there is no right answer, wrong answer, but I have seen clients who applied for both for two different reasons. If you have a hospital, you want to run payroll, plus you want to use a working capital as well, it's absolutely fine. So talk to your financial advisor and CPA. Maybe they can give you your individual circumstances, which loan is better for you.
Very good. Very well explained, Nishat. So now we know about PPP, we know about EIDL, we know how to apply, and if website is not working, keep checking and apply again. And most importantly, your accountant and your tax advisor can give you better advice, make sure that the application process is right, and so on and so on, which is wonderful. But now I'm coming back to another program, which is specifically for healthcare providers and doctors, which is called Advanced Medicare Payment Plan. What is Advanced Medicare Payment? Means how that works and what practitioners have to do to apply for that. Or
Yeah,
they are
so-
automatically done. Means I know my wife, she's a practitioner and she received a payment, lump sum amount of payment from Medicare and advanced payment.
Yeah, so that's not automatic though. So just want to make sure. So that automatic payment you're talking about, Aadil will explain in more detail to you. So that's why this is a good conversation to have, because it's so confusing and so many terminologies are there. So Aadil will explain to you something called HHS relief program. So
Right.
that is, yeah.
That is different. So we'll
That's
go
different.
back to that again, but let's explain us what is advanced Medicare payment.
Exactly. So advanced Medicare payment, this is not a forgivable loan or anything. All basically you are doing is last year, 2019, from October to December, if you take Medicare, whatever revenue you have received from last year, last 3 months of the year, you can take as an advance payment. Now, the good thing about this payment that you don't have to pay it back if you get once you get the loan for at least 120 days. And after that, the repayment starts. And the way the repayment starts is the new claim you submit, it's adjusted from there. Now, just keep in mind that it is not forgivable. You have to pay it back. And the time frame they have, the CMS and MAC, they put it in, is 7 months though, since you get the loan. So in 7 months, you have to repay the whole amount. So some clients are asking that it's too short of a time in 7 months, because if you don't pay it back in 7 months, you have an option to apply for extension. And this is on the leniency, depends on what CMS is saying. But there could be interest rate as high as almost 10.5%. So some people are saying that, hey, I don't want to take this huge amount of interest. What if like I take some loan right now? What I could do that I can take some loan 50% right now, and maybe 50% I can do it if the situation start to get better. Some people are saying, because you don't have to take the full amount of loan in one shot. It's completely okay. And then, if you see that, you have the money quicker, you can just pay it back quicker. So advanced, yeah, go ahead.
That's a little confusing to me. So what you're saying is basically that if you apply for advanced medical payment or Medicare payment, you get the payment of what you billed in last 3 months of last year, for example, right?
Yeah.
And the way to pay is not to pay back that money, but bill new patients or new clients towards that payment.
Correct.
Is that right?
It
So
is.
basically there's no cash payment or there's no
cash payment.
but basically you say that whatever you are billing now, you already paid in advance.
Correct.
Right. So
absolutely.
it's kind of advance payment for your so you continue your practice, you continue
Correct.
billing them. That
Correct.
is the probably intention. Wonderful.
That's the whole intention.
That is very well explained. So now I want to go back to Aadil again. So something which I jumped into initially, that it's been a pleasant surprise for many clinicians or practices that certainly they received a certain amount of payment in their bank account. And can Aadil explain you what this payment is? And do we have to be worried about it? Do we have to pay it back? And how do we deal with that?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a very valid point. And now we are covering stuff that is very physician specific. So remember, PPP EIDL covers small businesses as well as physicians who are self-employed. But Medicare advance payments and this fee-for-service reimbursements, this is physician specific. So under the CARE Act, they have made a relief fund available for healthcare providers, which is up to $100 billion. So out of which $30 billion is being dispersed immediately to Medicare fee-for-service providers. Now, again, if you're a self-employed physician, if you are a physician practice who has received Medicare fee-for-service in 2019, this is applicable to you. Now, the method in which, Rizwan, they're transmitting money is that you said you're pleasantly surprised of receiving money in your account. The way that this money is being transmitted is if typically you receive your Medicare fee-for-service payments in your bank account directly, then you will receive it via ACH. If typically you get a check, then you will get a check in the mail. But they do want to send this money out soon, and they do want to, again, put this money into your pockets as soon as possible. The way that they are basically calculating how much you're going to get is that they have a proportionate formula based on your 2019 billing. So based on that, you would get a proportionate amount. Now, this is not a loan. You don't have to worry about paying it back, but you do have one obligation, which is very important to understand. Within 30 days of getting this money, you do have to go on the HHS website and you do have to make an attestation. And that attestation is saying that I have received this money and I agree to all the terms and conditions. Now, a lot of people are asking, what are those terms and conditions? So we would highly encourage that you go on the HHS website. Those terms and conditions are laid out there in detail. Review them for yourself and do make sure that you're okay with them. Because, again, everyone should ascertain for themselves, but broadly speaking, what they want is that this money should be used for healthcare related expenses or lost revenues that can be attributed to a coronavirus. And there are certain things that you can't use it for. So for example, you cannot use it for things like abortion. Now, after reviewing those terms and conditions, if for some reason you feel that, hey, I'm not comfortable with keeping this money, then at that point in time, your responsibility is within 30 days of the funds received, you call HHS and you let them know that, and they will give you a method to transmit the money back to them as soon as possible. So a good program that is available for healthcare providers. It is, again, it's important to understand the distinction between Medicare advance payments and this relief fund, which is being dispersed for fee-for-service Medicare providers.
So is this program available to practitioners only or other type of practices? Say, for example, you have a nursing home or you have a ultrasound clinic or you have some other type of medical related practice. So is that covers all different type of services or just for physicians who provide service?
Rizwan, the key over here to remember is that in 2019, if you received Medicare fee-for-service, then you're going to receive this money. So it's irrespective of the business type. The key is if you have received Medicare fee-for-service in 2019, you will be getting money. And if you haven't, for some reason, if the money hasn't come as yet, obviously this is the government and they've started the process. Some of our clients got it as early as last Friday. But if you haven't received it, then, within the next week or so, you should get it. If you don't get it, you can always call HHS and find out the status of it.
Now, one thing, Rizwan, I want to just point out, there are a few clients who are saying, hey, I go to the hospital as a locum physician, I didn't get this money. Why is that? So just keep in mind that you are getting paid from the hospital. You're not billing directly to Medicare for that. So that's why you're not going to get this. The hospital will get it in the TIN number. So you're not going to get that. Just keep in mind. So this is one discrepancy. People are saying, why him, why not me? Because you're working in the hospital though. You don't have your own practice and you're not Medicare billing it as a TIN number. Just remember, number one. Number two, there's some delay is happening. Aadil mentioned one reason for delay is if you have a family practice or internal medicine, you are pre-approved somehow. So they pre-approve it, they're sending quicker. But if you are, let's say, a radiologist or let's say if you are a nephrologist, the approval process, they're doing it manually, it takes some time. So just want to point this out.
So that's a very interesting, very important point you mentioned. So many of us work in a hospital And when you work in a hospital, hospital pays your salary. And so you are not eligible to apply for these type of issues, and the hospital is. And so your salary hopefully keep coming from hospitals. But which brings to another very important question, that what happens if hospital laid me off or furloughed some of us who may be not being a medical practitioners, but somewhere else working, and they lost their job, or they are let go. So what type of help is available for those type of people at present?
I'm glad, Rizwan, you asked this question, because this is again to the heart of this whole CARE Act, is to help people that have been laid off or that have been furloughed. And a lot of doctors are like, we are not self-employed. Our hours have been cut down, and we've been laid off. We are suffering too. What is there that's out there for us? So the important thing to understand, first of all, is that if your employer who has cut your hours or who has laid you off has applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, as Nishat had explained, in order for their loan to be fully forgiven, they have to maintain their payroll. And if they do not maintain their payroll, their loan will fully not get forgiven. So the option is for them, if they do want to get their loan fully forgiven, they either have to hire you back quickly, or they have to give you your hours back quickly. So there is a possibility that you might be benefiting from one of those. But until that happens, there's plenty of good stimulus programs that are available that you could avail, which we're going to try and educate you in the next 2 or 3 minutes. So first of all, if you're a married couple filing jointly, you're making less than $150,000, you will get $2,400 from the IRS stimulus money. In addition to that, you will get $500 per child who's dependent on you in addition to that. What they're also doing, Rizwan, is that they're pumping money into unemployment. So on top of what you would ordinarily get as an unemployment benefit, you're also going to get $600 a week in addition to that, over and above that. Now, many physicians that we know, and I'm sure, Rizwan, you know them as well, many physicians have student loans. So, under the CARE Act, what they have done is that they have deferred student loan payments. So if you want to not make student loan payments for a certain amount of time, you have the option to do that, and that helps you with your cash flow needs as well. In the United States, the way that we get mortgages is that we usually go to a bank to get a mortgage. And approximately 60% of the mortgages that the bank gives you are what we call federally backed mortgages. Now, under the CARE Act, for federally backed mortgages, you can request your lender to defer the payments for that for up to 1 year. So potentially you could not make mortgage payments for up to 1 year. So if you're in that situation where you could benefit from this, we would encourage you to contact your lender and make a request and work with them to see if this might be something that you could avail. Now, every physician that we know has some type of a retirement account, either a 401k or a 403b or a 457 or an IRA. Now, typically, if you're below 59 and a half years of age and you withdraw money from your retirement account, not only do you have to pay income taxes immediately, but you also have to pay a 10% penalty. So a physician who's in a 40% tax bracket, potentially with the 10% penalty included, could give away 50% of the money that they took out of their retirement account. Now, under the CARE Act, you can now take out up to $100,000 from your retirement account. If you're below 59 and a half years of age, you don't have to worry about paying the 10% penalty. And if you, as long as you put the money back into the retirement account over a 3-year period, you also do not have to pay any taxes on that money. Now, if for some reason you decide that, I don't want to put the money back into the retirement account, then instead of paying taxes immediately, you can pay them over a 3-year period. So there's some relief that you could potentially avail of over there. Now, another good option that people should be aware of is that under the CARE Act, now you can take a loan from your 401k up to $100,000 and you can pay it back over a 6-year period. Now, obviously, all these options that I have mentioned, not each one of them fits every situation. So as we are reiterating throughout this call, speak to your financial advisor, speak to your CPA, but this is good information to have if you are in a crunch situation as to what are the available options available to you.
Wonderful. So that was a little complicated, but we will try to, if some people have questions, I'm sure they are having questions. And if you wanted to, I am not receiving any questions here. I think it's going to Zoom account. So if you want to answer some of these questions, fine.
Sure.
But before that we go there, I want to make sure, can you simplify it that in this difficult time, how we can take advantage from tax point of view, that what you explained some things, but I want to see just focus on tax, that how small businesses or individuals can benefit, what tax benefits there are at present.
Yeah.
Loans
So
is one thing, grant is another thing, but let's talk about tax now.
yeah, so this is we are talking about, like, if you are a small business owner, physician, non-physician, what are the benefits available for you? So first benefit, you have it right now. The payroll tax is a big thing if you're an employer and if you have employees. So you have to pay Social Security tax. Now, the good thing is about the CARE Act, the employee portion of the Social Security, you have to do the 6%. The employer portion, that's something you can defer it till the end of the year. The CARE Acts allow you to do it. You have to manually apply for it through your CPA, but you don't have to pay it now. You can pay it, you can defer it until the end of the year. This is some savings. You have it, more cash flow, number one. And yesterday is supposed to be a tax filing deadline. It's been extended until July. So this is some breathing room you have. You don't have to worry about tax filing right now. Now, a lot of small business owners, including physicians, they do defined benefit plan. The deadline is by September 15th. Now the IRS have extended until December. You can actually make the contribution, so have some time to make the contribution if you want to. And then one thing I want to just explain, that in New York or wherever you're located, real estate is a big investment. We all do. Real estate is the foundation for, in terms of investment is concerned. What CARE Act did, they have changed the depreciation schedule for real estate. A typical real estate, if you buy it, that's usually 39 years. They have changed it to all the way 15 years, especially if you have like newly developed properties. So which is actually a big advantage. You have it because especially if you're self-rental, if you're paying yourself a rent from a practice or a restaurant, if you own that building itself, if you're paying rent, because of advanced depreciation, the net income you are paying can go down substantially. So make sure you speak to your CPA about advanced depreciation, defined benefit, tax filing deadline, Social Security tax. And also, a lot of us, who are over the age of 70, they are taking RMD, required minimum distribution. So, that's typically is about 5 to 6% of the total portfolio value. Market is down, almost 15, 16% from the top. Now, if you are forced to take RMD, you will lose money. So IRS allowing you to make a stop if you want to this year and start again next year. So you don't have to take the RMD if you don't need to. So these are a few things. Talk to your CPA, financial advisor. Hopefully it will give you some help in the tax planning.
That is wonderful news actually for many of the small businesses, that so many different plans, so many different avenues are available to get help and continue with your business. So if you have any audience question, this is the time to answer them before I have another question. Go ahead.
Sure. So I will read them out, and Nishat, you can pick some, I can pick some. The first question is that, is the PPP loan, is it one time or is it recurring? So you can only apply for one PPP loan. And once you get it, you cannot keep applying again and again. Has anyone received a PPP loan? So we've spoken to a lot of people who have gotten approvals for PPP loan, but who haven't really got it in their bank accounts as yet. That's not to say that some people have not, but we've spoken to a lot of people that have been approved, but not a lot of people that have actually received the money. What is a 7A loan and how can I apply for it? So a 7A loan is a small business loan that the SBA provides, and the PPP is a form of that loan. It's part of that code. So that's the PPP, and the EIDL is part of the stimulus, which we are covering today. And I have a business account with Chase, but they're not taking applications. Can I go to another bank, which I have account with, but not business? The interesting thing is that the businesses right now, the banks are basically servicing their own clients. So if you have a business relationship, that's where they're servicing. And if you don't already have a relationship with the bank, you're getting a lot of pushback from the banks. They just simply don't have the capacity. But like we discussed, Rizwan, there are other good options that are available. And obviously that keeps changing. It's a fluid situation. So if you are in that situation, contact us. We'll try to give you some good resources to research other lenders. But definitely that, just because your bank is not taking your application, don't let that stop you from submitting your application. Contact us and we'll try to help you out.
So Adil, let me ask you a few questions. Maybe you can answer too. Someone is asking that I own a medical office for 20 years. Somehow it turned out I had personal checking account and could not apply for PPP. Is there any way out here? So I guess the situation is that you have a medical practice, but it's a personal checking account. You have not necessarily a business account. You had it, and that is not letting you to apply for PPP. So that's why talk to us. We will give you some ideas where you can go and apply. Most of the banks, big banks, are requiring that you have an account before February 15th of this year to be qualified to apply for the PPP. But there are some small banks out there we work with, and we can talk to you, know your situation, and give you some suggestion about that as well. And then they're asking, has anyone received the 10K EIDL advance or any? Yes, I have clients who have received the EIDL loan. Some received close to 10, some received. Now, one thing about EIDL looks like they are giving loan in terms of number of employees you have. Seems like now this is a category they have. So if you have 3 employees, they're giving you 3,000 rather than 10,000. So it's up to their discretion how they're making an interpretation. So yes, EIDL, some people have received it, those who have applied. Then there's one more question, then HHS money, this is for Adil. Maybe you can clarify more that can it be used for payroll?
Yeah, I think that, again, I would encourage that, because again, this is a very recent program. And they've laid out the terms and conditions in detail over there. And for this specifics as to whether you can use this money for payroll, which employees you could use this money for, we would highly encourage that before you make a decision on that, review that thoroughly. And if it doesn't get answered, there's a helpline for HHS that you can contact them and you can get this question addressed.
So I have to add there that, I know many people who have received this $10,000 or close to $10,000 grant money. So that money has been flowing in reasonably. I have not seen anyone who got big loan approval yet, but I know many people have applied and money's coming in. So one important thing about real estate you mentioned. So can you revisit that? So for example, if I have a medical office building, which I bought it and I'm practicing in that building recently, and now I'm in a, I have to pay mortgage, I have to pay other expenses related to that, and I have no income. So how should I deal with it? And what you mentioned something about depreciation issues, and tell me what if a scenario like this happens, what happens?
Right. So what I was explaining that, so there are two things, two part of it. So let's say if you have a medical practice and recently you bought the whole medical practice and then maybe a separate LLC or under your name, and it's a newly developed property. I'm just giving an example. You make some major renovation there. So typical depreciation for QTIP for a newly developed property is typically about 39 years. So you can do something called a cost segregation to bring the depreciation down. Depreciation means that every year the property value is going down. That's what depreciation. Now, let's say you give rent to yourself, let's say $5,000. I'm giving an example, and the depreciation is 5,000. Net income is 0. Correct? Now, but there needs to be substantial depreciation to do it. Now, if you're paying enough rent and it still is becoming positive, you owe taxes. But the CARE Act, what it did, the depreciation instead of 39 years, they bring it some portion as low as 15 years. So the depreciation amount is much higher. So if there's a net positive, net you don't owe any taxes. So it depends on the property. It depends on when did you buy it and what renovation you did. And if you have already bought it before, there's some depreciation still going on. So so that's why it's important to speak to the CPA, because the schedule has been changed for newly developed properties. So it should help you a lot if you're renting yourself.
Very nice, very well explained. And if you have any other question, you can read it. But I also wanted to thank you to Jinnah Sindh Medical College alumni and Apna New York chapter and our partner organization PACE, Pakistani American Excellence Community, and many other organizations we are working together. I think this is a time where we can all work together, we can all help each other, anyone who has any examples. So what I want you guys to do, if you can at least, if you can provide your website information or how to reach you. If I have a question and I am listening this on the YouTube and I want to know how to reach you, can you please put that on the screen, or how to reach you?
Sure. Now, Adil, there are a couple of more questions.
Sure.
We have it on the screen. Like I think someone is asking that the EIDL loan, do you get directly in your bank? Can you answer this question?
Yes, so when you're submitting your application, they take your bank information, and yes, certainly you would get it directly in your bank. Nishat, I see another question over here. They're asking that for Medicare fee-for-service reimbursements, I'm part of a practice, and if my practice got the fee-for-service payment, how do I get a portion of it?
Yeah. So, basically, as Adil explained, the last year revenues, this is what you collect. So if we do the formula, it's coming out to be around close to 6% of last year revenue for the HHS relief program we are talking about. All right. Which is the surprise, funding some clients have received. So formula is coming out to be around 6% of last year's revenue. Now, the way it works, if you're part of a bigger practice and then you also see employees, can I claim that money? It's an interesting question people have. So the idea is that it is coming to a TIN number of a big company. Hopefully this money will be enough for them to keep your payroll, hopefully. Now, they could be generous enough to give you this money if they want to, if you have seen patients, but that becomes more of a HR question versus like you're entitled to, because it is more of a TIN, they receive the money. So if you have agreement with them that, hey, I have seen patients I'm entitled to this money, you can ask them, but typically is coming as one TI number, and this from there, the money needs to be distributed. And it could be used pretty much for health-related costs.
So wonderful. So we still have a few minutes, 3-4 minutes. If there are any questions, I would like you guys to answer as many as possible. I can keep seeing that these questions keep coming up. Aadil and Nishat.
So there's another question, Rizwan. They're saying that do you have to pay interest on the PPP loan if the bank doesn't forgive for some reason? So yes, as soon as you get the PPP loan, you don't. It has to be, if it, let's say, it does not get forgiven, you have to pay it back over a 2-year period, and the interest rate is only 1%. So again, it's a very attractive proposition. Some of these questions that are being asked, we've already addressed. We've already covered them. But if we are on Facebook Live, and the recording of this is going to be on Facebook. So if you can get on the screen, on our Facebook page, you can visit there and you can view the entire recording. And we've covered a lot of these questions in a great deal of detail in case you joined the call a little later.
Yeah, so one last thing, someone is asking, I think you already, Adil, answered it, that HHS money, is it a loan? Do we have to pay it back at some point? And I believe you answered that this is a relief, this is a grant.
Yes.
As long as you are okay with the terms of agreements of the loan.
Yes, Nishat, absolutely right. This is a grant. You don't have to pay it back, but you do have to go on the HHS website, and you do have to make an attestation that you agree to the terms and conditions. And if you're not comfortable with the terms and conditions, then you do have to give the money back.
So there is another question I think we need to answer this. I have 2 LLCs and 1 C corporation. I have applied for PPP through my PLLC. Can I apply on behalf of other companies? So if someone is owning more than 1 company, can they apply from all these companies?
Yeah, so as long as that each company has separate tax ID, they are not related to each other, it's fine. You can apply for each company separate.
So you have to have a separate tax ID number to apply
ID
for these loans.
Right. And separate relationship. It's not like 2 separate, some people do 2 separate tax ID for the same business, different location, naming differently.
And the last question really is that in a disaster loan application, the application has no column for putting the amount of loan. So that is true, and you explained it. Can you explain that again? It's the government who decide how much they want to give you, right?
Oh.
It's not you how much you're asking for.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the government will make the determination how much they're going to give you. They will make the determination what the payback period is going to be. It can be as long as 30 years, but it's not necessary. But the interest rate is going to be 3.75%. And if you get the grant, that could be up to 10,000, which you don't have to pay back.
So there is a common question, a couple of questions pertaining to the same thing as that. I have applied for the loan. I haven't heard anything. Can you help us? So to be honest, there's no one can help. And the only person people can help you is a small business loan. There is a website where they may have a number to call them, but your bank where you're applying through, or the small business corporation which knows where your application stands. Is that correct, Aadil and Nishat?
Yes, Rizwan, for the EIDL loan, when you apply for it, you should receive an email that your application has been submitted, and you should receive a loan number. So you can take that loan number and try to call the SBA directly. For the PPP loan, that is being processed through the bank. So you should, if you need to follow up, you must follow up with the bank. There's another question which I'm seeing over here, which is quite relevant, is that can I apply for PPP with 2 banks? Nishat, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so the PPP, the actual loan could be only one. Just remember, 1 loan and that's it. Now, there could be instance where you apply in 2 banks. Like, for example, I'm just putting hypothetically, let's say you apply in Bank of America, no response, nothing whatsoever, and you went to Wells Fargo and you went and apply, and they are moving faster. If that's the situation, you can just cancel Bank of America. I'm just giving an example. Yes, you can apply in 2 banks, but you have to cancel one if one bank is not responding. Nowadays, if you go to website of the bank, they will tell you that they're encouraging you because of the loan amount is limiting. If you want to have more short, you can apply somewhere else as well. But what you could do, that there's something called two-step process. One step is basically you submitted. Second step, you submitted the pertaining documents and the loan is approved. Then you should not go to another bank. So up to the extent that you just initial application, you can do multiple banks and cancel the other banks if you find out that the one bank is moving faster.
And I would just add one quick point here, that you can apply with two institutions, but if you get approved with one, you cannot get two loans. So if you get approved with one loan, then just cancel the other one. But if your bank is not responding, a lot of people feel that they just don't want to sit there. Maybe it makes sense for them to apply with another institution.
So another question is that we got stimulus money in our personal account. What is that for? Is this loan payable back to feds?
Yeah.
So if someone has received stimulus money in their account, is that payable back, or is it just a grant?
Rizwan, it depends. That there are a couple of things that you could have potentially received in your bank. If you're a physician, Medicare fee for service, if it's a larger amount, that could potentially be for that. And as we have discussed that in detail, that that does not have to be paid back, but you do have to accept the terms and conditions. Then in the event that you're a married couple filing jointly and you make less than $150,000, you could have received from the IRS, you could have just received a direct deposit for $2,400. And again, that is stimulus money. That is money that you do not have to pay back. So it really depends on how much it is and what you do for us to ascertain that. But I'm sure that if you look at it, you should be able to, the amount and your situation, you should be able to decipher.
Right. So basically, depending on your conditions, there are many different ways you can receive some help, but you have to figure out what this help is for. And loan, you have to pay back, but grant or help, you don't have to pay back.
Correct.
Absolutely. You're absolutely
With
correct.
that said, I think we are over a few minutes, and I wanted to thank you, Aadil and Nishat, for a wonderful presentation, and all our organizers, our friends, our partners, Sindh Medical College alumni, Tapna New York chapter, and PACE. And hopefully this is helpful. Email us, call us, ask questions on Facebook. We'll be happy to help wherever we can. Right, Nishat and Aadil?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Rizwan,
Thank you so much.
For taking out your time from your busy schedule. You're a busy physician, and for you to do this just to give back to the community is very commendable. So thank you for that. Our goal has been throughout this is that physicians who are on the front line of this crisis, there's a lot of information flow out there, and we want to break it down to things that are relevant for physicians. And during this call, the purpose was to provide you that information. But if you have any follow-up questions, like Rizwan said, call us, follow us on Facebook, email us. We will get you the right information that you need. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. I just want to add one thing, that I have shared the information and the screen in our Facebook and our phone number. You can call Aadil or myself, and also you can follow us in Facebook. So what we have decided to do is keep posting new information about this CARE Act, because it's keep changing. So if you follow us in Facebook or go to our website, you'll be able to see all the new information pertaining to this CARE Act.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see each other soon, and this dark era of isolation will end soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.